Hi guys! So for today's video I wanted to do, I guess a story time. I wanted to sit down and film because I'm just kind of having a bad day. Well, I'm not having a bad day, I'm having a rough day, and I just wanted to be able to sit down and do something that I enjoy, just to brighten my day a little bit. And so I thought I would sit down and just talk about being pregnant at 19. So my husband and I got married whenever I was 18 and he was 21, and I was turning 19 a couple months after we got married. And so we got married in April of 2016, and then I got pregnant in September of 2016. And so that's 6 months. We were married for 6 months before we got pregnant. We weren't trying to get pregnant, but we weren't not trying. So we were just kind of like, if it happens, it happens, and it happens. Well, the day that I found out, my husband was at work and I was home alone, and all morning I was just kind of feeling sicky and not myself. I say sicky, but I really wasn't feeling sick. It was just not myself. Like I really had never felt this way before. And so I went to go take a nap later that afternoon that day, and I just laid down and I really felt super strongly not myself. So I thought, you know what, I'll go take a pregnancy test. It's probably going to be negative. I had taken pregnancy tests several different times throughout our marriage, and every time it was negative, so I had no hopes of it being positive. I didn't even think that it would be positive. And it's weird because this is the only time that I had ever felt that way when taking a test, because any previous tests, every time I was like secretly hoping that I was pregnant, or really hoping that I wasn't, or just had this feeling that I was, and I was scared or excited. But this one time, the only time, I had no feelings at all. I didn't even think that I was, and it happened to be the time that I was. So as soon as I peed on it, I got my phone flashlight, I looked at it, and it was like I just watched both lines appear immediately. And I thought, and I remember saying no whenever I looked at it. And it was almost like it wasn't even real to me. So I happened to have another one under my sink, and I took it, and immediately it was positive, and it was darker than the other one. So I started freaking out. I was so upset, so sad, so scared. My husband and I, we discussed how we weren't not trying to have a baby, but we also were trying. But it was still like, you can never prepare yourself for that moment. So I felt like, and plus since I was so young, I felt like, kind of like I was gonna get in trouble. Even though I had been married for 6 months, I didn't want to tell my mom, I didn't want to tell our family, because I really was scared about what people would think, if we could do it. My husband was at work, and I called him, and now that I have my son, and it's been a year and 9 months since this day, I wish that I could have gone back, or I just wish that I would have been able to say, you know what, none of that matters. This is a precious, innocent, sweet baby, and we're gonna love it, and we're gonna do our best, and that's all that matters. And what's important is that I'm with the love of my life, and the fact that we got to do this, and we were fortunate enough to get pregnant, is just amazing in itself. But that is an overwhelming time in your life, so it's totally understandable that I had those emotions. But anyway, I called my husband and I was like, is there any way that you could come home early? And I was freaking out in my head. And he was like, no, come home early, why? And I was just like, well, I just want you to come home early. I just don't feel good. And of course, I never asked him to come home early, and I've never been that way, so he knew that something was wrong. So I ended up just saying, I'm pregnant. And there was silence, and he was just like, okay. And I remember just saying, I'm sorry, even though it's not my fault. And he just kept being very positive to me and lifting me up and saying that it was going to be okay. And then a couple hours passed, and whenever he got home, we talked about it, and we just tried our best to be very positive about the situation, even though it was really scary. And then the next day, we went for a walk, and in our town, they play this game where they paint rocks and hide them all over town. And if you find it, then you're supposed to relocate it for other people to find. And we went on a walk, and we didn't know about this game. We didn't know anything. And we had never even found any rocks before. And we were walking, and I happened to look down, and there was a white rock painted on it. It said, "Be still." And I just knew that that was a sign from the Lord that everything was going to be okay, and this is His plan, and what happens to us is going to be the best. So from that day on, we were very positive about it. And we were not in a very strong financial situation. We did take care of our bills. We had enough money. I drove the car that was my very first car, but my husband drove a nice car. We were able to handle everything just fine, but anything over what we had, we weren't capable of it. So during my pregnancy, the whole time, we were trying to find new jobs. We didn't know where we would end up, what we would end up doing. We just left that in the Lord's hands, that He would take care of us that way, because I really had it laid on my heart that I wanted to be able to raise my son myself. At the time, I worked at a daycare, and I just seen moms every day, every morning, drop their kid off at 6 o'clock in the morning. They're 6-week-old, and then not be able to pick them up until 6 o'clock in the evening. And I just knew that that was no life that I wanted for myself, and no life that I wanted for my son. So I just put that in the Lord's hands, that was my desires, and I trusted Him that He would be able to give that to me. So in February, I got pregnant in September, so in February, we had this opportunity rise to us where some of my husband's family members were creating a business. And so we went to work for them, and the deal was I could bring the baby to work with me, but we would have to move. And it just was a better decision altogether for our family and our financial situation. So here we are, a year and 9 months later, and the Lord has just 100% put our lives in His hands and taken care of us in every way imaginable, and then some. So I'm so excited to have this channel so that I can share my journey with other girls who might be in the same situation as me, or who might want to be in that place. Getting married at 18 is not impossible, and getting pregnant at 19 is not impossible either. You can very well be successful and have a good relationship and a good life, even if you're young, no matter what you do. And I want to be here to encourage anybody and to attest to that, and be a friend if you need a friend or need somebody to talk you through it. Because I know that whenever I was in it, sometimes I would have just liked to have somebody in the same boat as me, just to build my confidence and build my reassurance on the subject. So, thanks for listening to me today and walking me through my rough day. I feel very blessed to be able to just sit here and have the opportunity to, and have the resources to share this with you guys. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.